Thanks for listening to Creative Control. While I have you here, please consider supporting Youth Empowerment and Support Services, otherwise known as YES. Based in Edmonton, Alberta, YES provides immediate and low-barrier overnight and day shelter, temporary supportive housing, and individualized wraparound supports for young people aged 15 to 24. They work collaboratively within a network of care focused on the prevention of youth homelessness by providing youth with the necessary supports to stabilize their housing, improve their well-being, build life skills, connect with community, and avoid re-entry into homelessness. Learn more about how to donate or otherwise support YES by visiting yess.org.
This is Dmitry Samarov from Chicago, Illinois. And I love listening to Vish Khanna's Creative Control because whether he's talking to a favorite musician or actor of mine or someone I've never heard of, it's as if he's introducing me to a new friend. And the way things are going, couldn't you use a new friend? Listen now.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/creativecontrol today.
Myriam Gendron is a wondrous songwriter, guitarist, singer, multi-instrumentalist, and lyricist based in Montreal, Quebec. Originally from Gatineau, near Ottawa, Ontario, Gendron has been releasing acclaimed albums, steeped both in folk tradition and modern times, since her 2014 debut, Not So Deep as a Well, on which she wrote music to accompany poems written by Dorothy Parker. She gained a wider audience with her bilingual 2021 album, Ma Derrière, Songs of Love, Lost and Found, which featured French and English compositions, and she has toured or shared stages with the likes of Xylouris White, Marisa Anderson, and Bonnie Prince Billy, among others. On May 10th, 2024, Thrill Jockey and Feeding Tube Records co-released her latest album. It's called Mayday, and it prompted Myriam and I to have a discussion about some of the places in the world she lived in before moving to Montreal, where she eventually worked a good job at a bookstore, playing in metal bands, a charming close encounter with the late, great Leonard Cohen, why she is generally disinterested in the personalities behind the art she loves, losing her mother and being a mother, and some of the lyrical themes on the bilingual Mayday, collaborating with Bill Nace, Marisa Anderson, and Jim White, among other people, why we love flowers, transmission, and keeping our parents with us, how her boyfriend helps her be online, touring, writing more music, other future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One Network with the support of listeners just like you who follow and subscribe to this listener-supported and donor-driven podcast. Spread the word about it, leave nice reviews and ratings on your podcast platform, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/creativecontrol, which is the primary and most reliable way for podcasters like me to make a living, and where a $6 a month subscription means you can access every single episode of this show in its entirety, and that is not the case without that subscription. So please, if you're able to, join us at patreon.com/creativecontrol today. Thank you. Plus in-kind support from independent businesses like Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 865 of Creative Control, featuring the wonderful Myriam Gendron, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
Vos cris
Hi, Myriam. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Vish. Thanks. How are you?
I'm well. It's very nice to meet you and see you on my screen here in Edmonton. I've been a long time admirer of yours, so I appreciate this time already. Thank you. Where in the world are you?
I'm at home currently in Montreal, Quebec.
Oh, nice. Nice. How are things in Montreal for you generally as we're speaking?
Well, it's pretty calm. I mean, as far as it can be with two kids at home. But yeah, I'm in between two runs of tours. So I'm, just at home preparing for the next run, making sure I have all my T-shirts and all the hotels are booked.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate, I've been working from home like a lot of people, I guess, have been remotely for the last 4 years, and I appreciate it with two young children. I can't imagine what touring must be like when you have kids at home. How is that for you to be away?
It's the hardest part, for sure. It's the hardest part. I don't like it. They don't like it. My boyfriend doesn't like it. But, I mean, they're starting to get used to it. In the good sense of it, like they're not giving up on me, but they don't react as strongly as they used to.
Yeah.
We talk every day, and it's just I try not to go away too often and not too long. Like I have a limit of 2 weeks, and that's way too long already.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Well, I assume they appreciate that this is your work. This is your livelihood.
Yeah, they're starting to get it. It's pretty new. I mean, I quit. I used to have a full-time job. I quit not too long ago. So touring, I mean, music was a side thing for most of my life. But 2 years ago, I quit my job. So it became a full-time thing. And to make it work financially, I have to play some shows. So yeah, they get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your full-time job at a bookstore? Is that? Yeah?
Yeah.
That must have been... Actually, I don't know what it's like. Working retail in culture, I can tell is both amazing and probably like kind of frustrating. How was your experience?
Well, I mean, I live in Montreal, so we're lucky here. There's a very big artistic, cultural community. And the bookstore where I used to work is located in this very artistic part of Montreal called Le Plateau. And so, I mean, we had very good walk-in. There's always people. It's a very important bookstore here in Montreal, so I don't want to complain. We really have good clientele, and it was, I mean, it's always hard, of course, but considering, we were lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. If I understand things correctly, working at the bookstore actually had a profound impact on you as a songwriter, and maybe you can elaborate upon that in a moment. But I also wonder if you miss it. You know, I know leaving a job can be bittersweet of your own volition. But two things. Can you speak to whether or not working in the bookstore impacted you as a songwriter, as a singer, as a musician? And also, do you miss it at all?
I'll start with the second part of the question. I miss my colleagues because they were, I had been working there for almost 15 years. So it was really a kind of a family. And so I miss that. The job itself, I don't miss it that much because at the end, most of what I did was, in an office. I wasn't with the clients. I was just in front of a computer all day long, taking care of orders that I received from schools and libraries. So it was kind of more like a mechanical job, and packing books and shipping them. But it's not the romantic part of the work that you would imagine. It was good because I had two kids at home. I didn't have a lot of energy and mental space for reading a lot. So, to give recommendations to clients all the time was really hard when my kids were young because I was so tired and I didn't have a lot of time to read. And so I took this job and it was good. But yeah, so I don't miss the job itself. I miss the team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it was a very good work environment, just generally speaking.
Yeah.
Just talking with colleagues about literature all the time. And that was, I miss that.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the decision I made. I mean, it was the only decision to make, obviously. I had to give up on something, and I wouldn't give up on music because it was beginning to it brought me a lot of good during a difficult time. So music was clearly the main thing. And so I had to quit the job.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable with the decision. How it impacted me as a songwriter, it's harder to answer that. It's more subtle, but it clearly had an impact. I guess just being surrounded by books all day long, you really get the sense of like history. It's really strong. You know, what's already there and what kind of space you can take in this landscape of culture. You really get a sense of that. It's very strong. It can be paralyzing. Like, what do I have to add to this, you know? But very inspiring too. And I think literature is a very important part of what I do as a songwriter. Like, obviously the first record, since they're poems by Dorothy Parker that I set to music, there's a very strong literary aspect, but even the other two records, I think that I work with lyrics in a literary manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have, prior to this position you took at the bookstore, did you have any kind of literary studies background?
Yes. Yes, I studied French literature.
And sorry, I didn't...
University.
I didn't establish this. You're in Montreal now. How long have you lived in Montreal? Is that where you're from?
No, I was born in Ottawa, but I grew up on the Quebec side, so just across the river in Gatineau. At the age of 10, my family moved to Washington, D.C.
Oh.
So we lived there for 3 years, and then we moved to Paris for another 3 years. So I was 16 when I moved to Montreal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm 36 now, so it's been 20 years.
I see. Okay, so you're ensconced. You are part of Montreal, and no plans on.
Yeah, this is home.
This is home. But that's an interesting trajectory. If I have this right, Ottawa, political capital of Canada. Washington D.C., political capital of the states. Paris, it's political. Just wondering, your parents have some sort of political vocation or something like that?
My dad was a journalist.
Oh, nice.
So he was a foreign correspondent for 6 years for Radio-Canada.
Oh, nice. I mean, that can be nice. Was it difficult to live in all these different places for you?
Well, as a kid and as a teenager, leaving your friends is hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. But now, with the distance, I do see all the good that, there was in moving all the time, just opening your horizon to other cultures, and I guess also just learning English because I didn't speak English before the age of 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I want to dig a bit deeper into this background because I feel like it informs this beautiful new album of yours, Mayday. Congratulations on this record, by the way.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful one. Before we go too much further, I want to extend my condolences to you and your family on the loss of your mother in 2022, I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very sorry to hear that, and I think, based on my own interpretations, I can hear how that loss has informed Mayday. So, like I say, before we dig into the album, because we've talked a little bit about your personal trajectory, I wonder about, within all of that, how you kind of came to music. I've long been compelled by you I got to see you live, I think just the one time in Toronto at the Great Hall, many years ago now.
When I opened for the weather station.
Yes,
right?
Yes, I was at that show and I picked up a copy of your first record. It's here somewhere under the G's. I can't see it right now, but and so I just was quite captivated. And but I also, and I don't know if this is my own laziness, but I feel like you've been a little enigmatic. I don't know that have you done a lot of press per se?
I don't know what a lot is. I guess I didn't do a lot.
Okay, yeah. In the grand scheme of things, you didn't. you weren't oversaturating the market with
No.
press quotes and interviews. Yeah. So, and I try to pay attention to things. I do my best. I'm busy. But I was like, I don't know a lot about Myriam in a way. I've just been buying the records and I enjoyed that performance. All this to say, can we dig into your history a little bit with music? When did you first become enamored of music as a listener and as a fan, and how did that happen? Can we start there?
Yeah, well, as a kid, when I grew up in Gatineau, the French public school where I used to go to, just the neighborhood school, had this special music program. It was free. It was pretty exceptional. It doesn't exist anymore, obviously. But at the time, every kid in kindergarten would learn the violin. And at the end of the year, they would pick one out of 3 kids to go into the music program until the end of elementary school. And so I got in that program. And so I learned the violin, piano, xylophone, recorder, flute, cello, choral singing, all sorts of instruments. So that was, I guess, my musical awakening. It was mostly classical in school. Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't in the home necessarily.
It wasn't in the home. No.
Okay.
And it was mostly a classical repertoire of songs. And later when we moved, that stopped, obviously. And it took a while before I picked up the guitar. But as a teenager, I would say I was about 12 or 13. I picked up the guitar. I taught myself how to play. I was really into Nirvana, grunge music. And later in Paris, I was in a metal band for a while. So more heavy stuff. And around the age of 15, maybe I heard Leonard Cohen. And then that started, another chapter of my life as a listener. And I got into all the great singer-songwriters. And then the rest is history. I mean, later on, I heard John Fahey, and that was a big influence on me for guitar picking.
Yeah.
And I listened to all sorts of music, but that's pretty much the trajectory.
Yeah. You say you got into Leonard Cohen at 15, and as I recall, you just said that you moved to Montreal when you were 16. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got into Leonard Cohen, famously from Montreal, before moving to Montreal? That's kind of remarkable to me, in a sense. Did you feel, when you heard you were going to relocate to Montreal, you were like, that's where Leonard's from? Did you have that feeling?
It's funny because I didn't know that he was from Montreal. Yeah. I'm not really interested in the life of the musician that much. I don't read biographies. He was just a voice for me, and that was more than enough. That's all I wanted. So it took a while before I figured out that he was from Montreal. I had moved here, and I listened to him all the time and was never interested in where he was from and where he was living, which is kind of weird, but that's how I was at the time, I guess. And I was working in a store on Montreal Avenue in a kind of a CVS, or how do you call those?
Pharmacy?
Like a pharmacy, yeah. So Jean Coutu, and he came to my. I was a cashier there, and he was there in front of me, and I didn't recognize him. I didn't know his face. I just knew his voice. And so he gave me his credit card to pay, and I saw his name, and then I looked at him and I'm like, oh yeah, this is obviously Leonard Cohen. And I froze. But yeah, now I am a little bit interested by people. But at the time, I guess it was just the voice and the music. And so, yeah, that's funny.
That's a 1 in a million encounter that someone might have with Leonard Cohen. 2 things. One, because I've had your friend and mine, I think your friend, Howard Billerman, has told me one of the greatest Leonard Cohen encounter stories of all time. I've told it on the show on kind of via hearsay, I suppose, which is ostensibly that he received an email that purported to be from Leonard Cohen, wondering about some sort of collaboration, and he thought initially it was a joke. And then as the correspondence continued, he just said, well, if you're ever at this, want to come to the Hotel Tatango, you're welcome anytime. And then the way he told me the story, as I recall, is he showed up. He showed up when he was doing, I think, a Silver Mount Zion session. The band was playing and, making recording a song, finished the song, looked in the control room, and Leonard Cohen was just sitting there. And
amazing.
I don't know if he's told you that story. If I've got that wrong, Howard, I'm sorry, but I just enjoy that story very much. And I've heard from other musicians and people in Montreal that they would just kind of encounter him walking down the street or whatever. So, yeah, first of all, that was your only ever encounter, I'm guessing, with Leonard Cohen?
Well, close encounter, yes. And I looked at him. I knew instantly that it was him. I just saw it in his eyes. But as I said, I didn't know his face. I was never curious about that, which is very strange. But then I said, I love your work. The most stupid thing. It's so obvious.
Oh, you did?
I said, I was 17, I think. And I said, I love your work. I play your songs in my bedroom every night. And I'm just like, I love your work. And he was so nice. He just looked at me and he said, oh, really? Oh, that's lovely. What's your name?
Oh.
I don't know. It was, that's how it went. And then I saw him a few times. I saw him twice, I think. Play,
yeah.
In Quebec City and in Montreal. Yeah.
I had a very short, brief interaction with him after a tribute night for him at Massey Hall in Toronto. There were some of us were invited to attend the after party across the street at the diner there, and his friends were playing in a band, and I said, well, I should go say something to this man I love. And so my friend Kate Boothman sort of was like, let's go over there. So I went up to him and I said, hey, Mr. Cohen, my name's Vish, and I work for CBC. At the time, I was working for CBC. I said, I'm Vish, I work for CBC. He's like, hey, man, it's great to see you again. I'm like, again? Who does he think I am? Like, I didn't know. I was like, yes, yes, it's nice to. And I said, you're friends with Howard. I know Howard. And he's like, oh, Howard's great. Anyway, then we did a little photo, and that was it. That was my very brief imposition upon Leonard Cohen. Speaking of impositions, I think the journalist in me wants to know if you remember what he bought at the pharmacy. I'm just curious. Do you have any memory of that?
It was toilet paper, just regular stuff.
He just running some errands. Yeah. But did you think, he must live in this area then? Like if he's
and he did. It was very close to the Portuguese neighborhood.
Okay.
And that's where he lived. Now I know exactly where he lived. I know the house. I've been there a few times, showed it to people. It was right around the corner from the pharmacy where I worked. Yeah.
His passing impacted so many of us. Living in Montreal as you did, having this relationship with him as a fan, your encounters. Do you have any memory of how you felt when that news kind of hit that he'd passed?
I was very sad. I was very sad. Yeah, it's a big part of Montreal that went away that day. Yeah. But I mean, we have his music, Yeah.
I want to go back to something you were saying about how you weren't interested in learning about the artists' lives, like the artists you loved. You weren't that interested in their lives. Just going back to what we were talking about when we began about your presence in the media. From my perspective anyway, do you think that your lack of interest in other people's lives makes you hesitant to be like putting yourself out there as a personality, if you will?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think you put your finger on it. Yeah. I mean, I feel like what I do is my music, the rest, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not that interested in talking about myself.
Yeah.
When I meet people, it's different, on a personal, intimate level. I like to talk with people. I like to meet people and get to know them. But all the media exposure, I don't know. I guess it's something you have to do. But yeah, I'm not really into it.
I have it here on my desk. I wish I could show it to you, but my desk is a bit of a mess. But I ordered, where is it? Oh, maybe it fell on the ground. I'm sorry. But I ordered your second record, I think from Bandcamp or something like that. And I got a nice little note from you, I think, thanking me by name, which is very lovely, and I'm sure you do that to everyone who orders your records. But I kept your mailing address because I thought I had this romantic notion of I'm going to write Myriam a letter because I was not aware of you having any PR publicist. And I was like, I would love to interview Myriam, but I don't know how to do it. There's not really an online way of contacting you or your people, I thought. I didn't know if you had people. So somewhere on my desk, and again, I apologize for my slovenly, I don't know where it is, but I cut it out. And I was like, I'm going to mail Myriam a physical letter to thank her and invite her on. And so there's something, I guess, I'm just telling you, I have this, it's not a block. I think you've confirmed it. I just think you aren't someone who puts yourself out here, and that's the level to which I was going to go to try to contact you. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I picked up on it right away. Like, I don't think there's any way to contact this person, but now I have this P.O. box or whatever it was. I'm going to send her a letter. Would you have responded if I had ever done this? And I still might. Just out of a nice, I miss writing letters. What would you have done if I had done that? Do you think you would have been like, yeah, of course I'll talk to you? Because you're doing it now. Something has prompted you to talk.
Absolutely. I don't say no to interviews.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not against it. And I'm really happy to be talking to you today. Like, it's not, I don't want to say that I hate it. I don't. I usually have a lot of fun, in interviews. But I'm not looking for them, I guess. And, usually people will write to the label.
Yes.
So, yeah, this new record is with Feeding Tube Records and Thrill Jockey. And I guess Thrill Jockey has like a whole PR department, so it's probably easier for you to get in touch.
Yes.
But, yeah.
I guess want to convey that this has been a long time thought I've had, and I get so busy that I never act upon them. So I'm sorry. I owe you a letter that you don't even know I owe you. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Don't worry about it. But I would have answered. I
appreciate that very much. Okay. So you started getting into, would you say you played metal? So you played metal guitar? Is that what you would have done in that metal band?
Yeah.
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 Thinking about what you do now, I don't know, like when you think back on yourself at that time and comparing it to what you do now, what do you make of your younger self in a metal band?
Well, I think it informs the way that I see folk music in a way. Like, it's not just the typical folk music. I like distortion.
Yeah.
I like anger. I mean, anger is an important part of what I do. So probably I just deal with it in a different way now.
Yeah.
I'm not a teenager anymore. I don't feel like I have to scream my anger,
Yeah.
but it's still there.
When I ponder a song off the new record, like Long Way Home, that song to me feels angry on the one hand, but also that anger that an adult has where they realize they need to express themselves with a certain amount of consideration and decorum. Does that kind of capture that?
Can you rephrase that? I'm not sure I understand.
What I'm getting at is Long Way Home, when I hear it, seems like a farewell.
Yeah.
But I can't help but pick up on a pointedness. It's not necessarily anger. How can I put it? A sharpness? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the lyric exactly? Maybe that's the easiest way for me to convey what I'm saying. It's been a long way home, and I'm afraid the fire's gone. I just want to be alone. It's been a long way home. I don't know if that's about a personal or interpersonal relationship, but it's kind of like, I'm done. And when you say goodbye to someone like this with that level of finality, I can't help but pick up on anger is the wrong word. Maybe that's why you're confused. But also like a little bit of like, I'm trying to be polite and hold my tongue, but I have to convey that I'm not happy about the situation and I need to get out of it. Does that clarify?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I guess this song is about many things, and I don't want to choose the meaning I'm giving it, because it can be very different things, depending on what day and how I'm feeling when I'm singing it.
Yeah.
But I think that when I wrote it, it was just this feeling of, I came back from a year of touring, it was a lot. I quit my job. It was all very new to me, and it was kind of hard to deal with it all, especially because my mother passed away during that time too. And since I was, I had festivals, I had tours in Europe, in the States. And so I didn't have a lot of time to just grieve. And when I came back home in January of 2023, I was suddenly out of a job. I didn't have any shows planned during that year, or very few. And it was just this feeling of emptiness all of a sudden, and all these feelings that I had to deal with. And I think this song is one of the first that I wrote for the record, is mostly about that, just returning home. And when I say the fire's gone, I guess it's just that the whole Ma Délire process was very, very passionate. I had a lot of energy. And when I came back home and when I wrote the song, I felt like I didn't have anything left inside of me, to kind of, there was no fire anymore. And I was just very sad, and I wanted to be alone. I didn't want to deal with anybody. And so anger, I'm not sure in that song. It's mostly sadness.
Okay. I interrupt this episode of my own show for a brief thank you for hearing my call to support me and my work on Patreon. We have seen a lot of growth in Patreon support over the last little while, which is amazing because that's my primary source of income these days. And I love doing this job that I invented for myself a whole lot. Creative Control is a listener-supported podcast. Do podcasters receive any streaming royalties from podcast platforms? No, not any. Does podcast advertising pay the bills? Not for a show at this scale, no. Do all podcasters get paid by companies for their work like some celebrities do? No, most of us do not. We do this work to support our communities and because we love it. So what's the most reliable source of income for podcasters like me? Crowdfunding platforms like Patreon. So if you love Creative Control with Vish Khanna and want to see it continue, please see the notes in this episode. Click on the link that takes you to my Patreon and its different donation tiers with various incentives and benefits, and support me and my work today. Thank you again so much. I appreciate this. I think a further way to distinguish what I'm getting at in terms of your own trajectory is that you're not the first person I've spoken with who ostensibly is operating in a folk realm that on the surface might appear gentle, but there's just so much emotion underneath. And as I dig into a person's background, they'll be like, yeah, and then, I started playing in a punk rock band. I started playing in a metal band. I started playing screaming in an indie rock band. And as they get older, I think they realize that volume is not the only way to convey that level of intense emotion. And that's just a thing that I've noticed. And I would say that now that I know a little bit more about your background, I can see that happening now. Mm-hmm. Does that make more sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're going to hear it in other songs more specifically. Like the sound is like distortion and heavy guitar solos, and Zoe's saxophone at the end of Mayday. It's all anger.
Yeah.
And it's important for me that it's there. And even in Not So Deep as Well, I mean, there's anger too. Even it's just guitar and vocals, but yeah, it's part of it.
Is humor a part of it? Because one of my favorite aspects of, this is going to sound silly. The record, Not So Deep as Well, is beautiful. But I love, when I got it, I opened it up, and I was pulling out the record, and I noticed that the hole in the vinyl was exactly placed where your guitar hole. Like there's a photo of, is it a photo of you? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but it's a photo of someone playing guitar. And the hole...
I don't think it's me.
Yeah, it's not you, right? I didn't think so.
Is it the CD or the vinyl?
No, I have the vinyl.
Yeah, so it's not me. Okay. On the CD, it's me.
Well, on the vinyl, I just thought that was very clever. I've always thought that was very clever. That the hole, the center hole of the vinyl cut is exactly in the guitar hole. And did you have anything to do with that?
No, it's my boyfriend.
Anyway.
He designed all the records and the labels, and
Okay.
he's a funny guy.
He sounds funny. Like that just made me chuckle out loud. I don't normally laugh at things like that, but I was like, that's funny and clever. Is humor a part of your work? It's hard, I know, for some who maybe listen to your records to pick up on that because of the, I think, relatively solemn tone. But is humor a part of your practice, would you say?
Well, Dorothy Parker was quite funny.
Yes.
Obviously, even if it's mostly sadness that you see in her poetry, but there's also a bit of humor in there. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
So in Not So Deep as a Well, yes. In Madélire and Mayday, I guess there's one song that can make you smile on Mayday. It's in French, so maybe you didn't get it.
Hey, what are you insulting me? I might know some stuff. Let's for argument's sake, I might have run some of the songs through Google Translate just to make sure I had it correct. Let's just for the argument, maybe I did that, and maybe there's funny songs. I don't know. Which one were you referring to?
Quand j'étais jeune et belle, number 9, is kind of a more, it's a lighter song, and I think it's a little bit funny.
That's funny. It's funny to me that you said that, because that translates, I believe, to When I Was Young and Beautiful. And one of the vibes I picked up on that song was guilt, like from the narrated voice. Like, when I was young and beautiful, I'm paraphrasing, but basically I broke some guy's heart. Yes, that's sort of funny. But it also, I wonder if you're like, was there regret in there, or is that you think that's just a funny way of doing, funny way of being, to be young and beautiful and just break people's hearts? You think that's funny?
No, the story itself is not funny. I guess it's more the form.
Okay. What about the form to you seems like it might be funny?
Well, it kind of reminds me of some Brassens songs, in the structure and the melody and, kind of subtle allusions to sexuality, but in this very old-fashioned way. Yeah. That can make you smile today, because it's not, people don't write like that today. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a playful, there's a old-fashioned playfulness.
Yeah, it's playful. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Mayday obviously stood out to me as a title because it's also maybe an old-fashioned term, but it used to signify a cry for help. What does that title connote for you?
Yeah, well, it's many things. So it's the month of May. My mother died in May. The whole month was crazy in 2022. It's also a beautiful month, It's like everything is blooming and so pretty outside, the birds and all. My daughter was born in May, so there's a lot of joy, a lot of sun, a lot of light in May, but also, it was in May 2022 was really, really challenging. And so it's this conflict, I guess. And also, obviously, Mayday is a cry for help. We were looking for a title that would work in both French and English. That was, we did that for Madélire, because there's this Songs of Love, Lost and Found. So it's bilingual in a way, the title of the record. And we were trying to find something similar for this record. And it was actually my boyfriend's idea. Said, Mayday, the alert signal Mayday comes from French. They decided on this particular word because in French, Mayday means, I guess, help me, aider, Mayday.
Oh, I see.
So that's where that's where it comes from. So it's a bilingual term in a way. And with this whole thing with the month of May, and I talk about the month of May a lot on the record, it just made a lot of sense.
And the record is out May 10th, 2024, as I recall. So you timed things beautifully there. Okay, I appreciate that. And again, my condolences and my sorrow for you for enduring a terrible month of May in 2022, but also recognizing, I suppose, the beauty in May for you and your family. Speaking of dichotomies or binaries, I suppose, you are a bilingual artist. I don't know if people might appreciate the potential challenges in being a bilingual artist, particularly in our kind of indie rock or indie folk realm. And I'm sure you might have perspectives on why there might be advantages to it. Can you speak to that, since we're on the topic of just being a bilingual artist in this day and age?
Mm-hmm. So my first record was obviously in English only, poems by Dorothy Parker. I didn't translate them or anything.
Yeah.
And that record had, kind of a little cult success in the United States mostly, a little bit in the UK and Japan or something, but not much success here locally. People don't, in Quebec, people don't really know who Dorothy Parker is. She's not very, her books are not translated, or very few are. Her poetry is certainly not at all translated. And so it just didn't happen here. When I was, starting to think about a second record, the sparkle came from a Québécois traditional song, Au cœur de ma délire. And when I heard that song, I realized that there was something there in, French traditional music that could really resonate with me. And I wasn't aware of it before I heard that song because, like most people, I guess, in Quebec, I was kind of suspicious of the whole traditional repertoire, kind of saw it as something from the past and very tied to religion. We kind of gave up on this music in the 60s when we became modern. Of course, there are many exceptions. Many people kept playing these songs, but it was kind of a niche. Mm-hmm. It's not integrated in popular culture at all. Mm-hmm. People don't sing these songs anymore at home or, elsewhere. They don't know about them. And when I heard that song, I was like, oh my God, because I listened to a lot of traditional music in English and for years, but not in French. And when I heard that song, I was like, oh my God, the same feeling that I get when I'm listening to the anthology of American folk music or, things like that. It can exist in French. I have it in my cultural background and I want to dig into that. And so the idea of the record came from the French tradition. Then I opened it up to English. But at first, I wanted to work with French traditional songs. And doing that, when the record came out, for the first time, people here in Quebec were interested in what I did. And same thing in France. People really liked the record there. Yeah. And so I found like this whole new audience with Ma Délire. And now I have to work with both. And I like it. I really like it because my influences are from both cultures. Yeah. And so.
I sometimes talk to people who work in different musical realms. Maybe they work as instrumentalists, but every once in a while they'll write lyrics for a song. And I always find that fascinating. How do you make that call? Like, oh, okay, this is an instrumental. This is this. I'm going to put some words to this. You have at least three things going on by that premise. You've got, is this going to be an instrumental, which you still create? Is this going to be a place for me to express myself lyrically? And then three, and I think in your case, sorry if I'm missing any factors here, but at least the third one is, am I going to sing and write in English or French? Is there a way, a catch-all to explain? I know it's probably case by case, but like, is there?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's no formula. There's no reason why this one would be in English and this one would be in French. I guess it's just what comes naturally. Yeah. When I'm writing a song, I don't decide like rationally if it's going to be in French or English. It's a feeling. Yeah. I'm just, listening to something inside, like an inner thing happening. And I just try to follow it. And once in a while, there's one song on Mayday it's actually bilingual. So it started off with this verse from a Dorothy Parker poem. And I started to kind of build something around it. And then I wrote one verse. And when I came to the second verse, for some reason, it came in French. And then I listened to both and I was like, okay, I have to choose which sounds better. And then I was like, no, let's keep both, Yeah. Why not? Let's write a bilingual song.
Yeah. And that song, I believe, is Dorothy's Blues.
Yes.
which was inspired by Dorothy Parker poem called Theory. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting example. You were feeling both things, basically.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to explain why, because it was an impulse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it.
Yeah.
I had both, and then I felt like I had to choose for a while. I was a bit hesitant.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, okay, this works. Let's just keep it bilingual.
So we've talked about some of the context that you've been enduring on a personal level. I've alluded to the fact that some of the personal tragedies you've had and the reflections you've had about your life and your family have informed these songs. Are there, first of all, if that's accurate, or if that's inaccurate, rather, please correct me. But secondly, do you find, or as you ponder this record, are there other things that were on your mind that you wanted to address in particular?
So, yeah, my mother's passing is a big part of the record, but it's not just about that.
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to... There was a very strong sense of loss when I started working on Mayday. My mother, but not only, because it started before she was even sick, I guess. This record started, what's the word?
Percolating?
Yeah, that's good.
Gestating?
Yeah, gestating. Kind of, yeah, before she got sick. And so I don't know if you call it a midlife crisis. I don't know what it is exactly, but I had kind of an existential crisis, and it was a lot to deal with. Started therapy, and that was months before she got sick, and then she died, and it was like it was just a crazy year. So, but that's kind of hard to talk about. I don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
I guess it's just that a lot of certainties just kind of fell apart. Things I thought I knew about myself and about the world, and like, I don't know, everything just fell apart, and I kind of had to rebuild it all from scratch. And this record is about that mostly, I would say, kind of following a thread and listening to an inner voice of some kind to kind of really become,
For what it's worth, my mother is fine now, but for what it's worth, the only time I've attended counseling or therapy was when she was ill with cancer, and I felt like I didn't know myself, or that I was losing a foundational part of myself, I think. And so panic attacks ensued. I had one in Gatineau, actually. I was there for a festival, and so small world. I had to leave a room because I was feeling overwhelmed. And something about, this isn't probably a novel notion. This is probably quite normal, but something about confronting the loss of your parent or enduring the loss of your parent, I guess it's obvious it would have a catastrophic effect on a child, but I was lucky. I mean, I think I came out on the other end, and my mom's around and seems to be doing well. But that profoundly changed me for the rest of my life. Oh shit! I don't know about you. Did you ever have when you're in music and art and culture, you tend to become a little rebellious from your parents, and then I feel like I had that for like most of my life, and then she got sick and I just crumbled. Well, I like every phone call now with my parents ends with "I love you," and that's new. That's a phenomenon that emerged in the wake of that situation we all went through, and it just reset me, I think, and it reset my level of admiration and love for them. Sorry, does any of that resonate with you? Did it shift how your relationship with your parents? Did it shift from the loss or what you endured?
Well, I think it would have shifted with my mother if she had, survived her cancer. Because I guess I actually really got to know her during the month of May when we learned she was going to die on May 2nd, and she died on May 28th. It was really, really fast. It was like 3 weeks, because before that, we thought they would cure her. The doctors were pretty optimistic until the end. And on May 2nd, they said, no, 6 to 8 weeks left. And it took 3. So it was just like so fast. And she stayed at home during that whole time. So it was my sisters and I who took care of her. And it's like all her defense mechanisms kind of disappeared. And for the first time in my life, I really got to see her and, talk to the real her, which is great. I mean, that stays with me today because I wasn't really close to her before. Yeah. And so at least I have that, but I wish I could have had it longer.
I'm very sorry to approach prying into your personal situation. And I can't stop saying I'm sorry that you have gone through this. And but I appreciate that it seems to have impacted you as a person in something of a positive manner. I mean, that's the best you can get out of these things, these situations. So I wanted to ask, so the album is called there's one question I wanted to ask you as you were talking about where some of the songs might be emanating from, and you mentioned existentialism, and one of the songs, forgive me for my mispronunciation or lack of French pronunciation, I used to be really good at French in grade 8. Grade 9, I was the king. They gave me awards. Now it's all gone. My kids make fun of me. They're in French immersion. Tell me if I'm saying this even close to correct. Is it terre brûlée?
Yes, terre brûlée.
Okay, close enough. I can't get the R's rolled enough. Yeah. Translation, scorched lands. And I don't know if this is purely metaphorical, but I picked up on that existentialism as we ponder what it's like to live in a planet that's dying. But again, you had a lot of personal stuff going on. I'm sorry if I've asked a leading question, and if I'm way off base, please correct me. From your perspective, where did that song kind of emanate from?
It's a song I really struggle to talk about because I don't really know where it comes from. It's kind of a strange thing. It was originally a melody that I had in my head, and I was obsessed with the melody. I kept humming it. And it seemed like I would never find words that were good enough for this melody. Like I couldn't, do it justice. And it took a very long time. And, I tried many things and I was like, I can't just say anything with this melody. It has to be very profound. And so I tried many things, and it seemed like the only thing that worked were like very heavy symbols of like water, earth, fire, the wind, all the very like heavy, symbolism. And in this very classical form of poetry and like 12 syllables or 13 once in a while, but very regular metric. Is that a good word? Yeah. And so it took a while because I've never really written like that before. And it's very intimidating to write like that. It's because it's like associated in my mind with like Baudelaire and, poets like that. And it seems like very old fashioned. And it's hard to speak like that with my own voice. I felt like I was imitating someone. Yeah. And so it took a long time. But then at one point I found the thread. And it's actually about that. It's actually about following a thread of light that can, keep you going when the whole world is falling apart around you. Yeah. So scorched lands, I guess the planet that's like maybe something with like weather related catastrophes and like all that, but on a more existential level also, just my whole personal world that's falling apart. And politically too. I mean, it could be anything, I guess.
The song is in French. The fine people at Google Translate have turned this song into the following English words. I'll just read a passage. Listen to the language the giants speak. When the fire of the earth devours the landscape, let everything turn to dust. And then there are other elemental symbols that Google thinks you're singing about. So those things in English anyway spoke to me. And giants speak, I don't know, like you just invoked political figures, and I don't know if that's them. I don't know what, if any, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm doing a clumsy English, grade 12 English essay on your song here, but.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I think the giants I'm talking about here are more like this kind of invisible force. I don't think they're political giants. I think they're, listen to the language spoken by the giants would mean listen to what the earth is telling you, I guess.
Or you invoked Baudelaire. We've talked about Leonard Cohen. There are literary giants who have framed the way we speak and process language. So maybe, sorry, man, now I'm doing a weird interpretation of a Google Translate interpretation of your lyrics, but there's something in here, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was this notion of like, yes, my personal world has shattered, but that in the context of an earth that seems to be falling apart. Like the whole world seems to be falling apart. It's not just me. And I just wondered if there was an interconnection there. Yeah. That's all. So
there could be that too. I guess listen to the language spoken by the giants. Yeah, it could be just listen to the wind, just listen to like the elements and kind of, you know, get the big picture of it. But it could also mean listen to yourself, listen to, you know, all those influences that you have inside of you. Yeah. That can guide you through.
Well, of all the elemental things you invoke on that particular song, flowers stick out to me. Flowers are super fascinating. We send them to celebrate milestones, but they often are part of funerals. And they mark passages of time in ways that I can't think of any. Maybe cake and flowers seem to mark this passage of time, to celebrate, to mourn. It's very fascinating. And like, again, according to Google Translate, and the hours will pass, the years will pass, flowers on our scorched lands. Like flowers are going to be here potentially long after we are. And that they sort of end up being this reminder, you know, when we mourn people, flowers, like that's one thing what are we going to do with the flowers? It's just fascinating. Sorry, I don't have a real question here. It's just these symbols and these images you chose to invoke, I think, are telling in themselves.
Yeah, flowers. I mean, I think that the image there was, it could be what you said. Yeah. It could also be just, you know, flowers they bloom, they grow, they die, and then they reappear. The cycle just continues. Yeah. And it lasts for a moment. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. So it's like, everything is falling apart. You know, the big picture is not really good, but we have flowers that bloom here and there, and let's, you know, hold on to them.
Yeah. There's beauty in all the destruction too, I suppose. And there's beauty in the sadness, I guess, is where I'm coming from. So they are this hopeful symbol. That's where I was coming from with, again, my shoddy interpretation of your lyrics. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Not to make this too fine a point, the album's called Mayday. You have help. You have collaborators you relied on here. Two of my favorite guests on this show are Jim White and Marisa Anderson. And as we're speaking, I think the same day, actually, May 10th, Thrill Jockey going bonkers. They're putting out a record, and you've got a record out, and they're on this album. Over the last couple of records, you've sought collaboration, I think, from folks, previous guest Bill Nace as well has been, and is Bill on this record too? I think he is, right? The new one?
He is on Terre Brûlée. It's more subtle than on Ma Délire. There's no like heavy guitar solo, but he really made this song work because it was before his contribution. Because you don't really know what he's doing on there. So there are the birds. He brought in the birds, but the rest of the time he's, you know, you can't really hear him clearly because he's very close to the upright bass. And so you're not really sure what's happening there in the background, but he's there for the whole song. He brought the glue to make the song really work. Because before it felt like we were all playing separately. And with his contribution, for some reason, we're all playing together.
I appreciate the insights you're providing about Bill specifically. I want to ask two questions, and let's see if we can figure this out. One, if we can talk a little bit about your work with Jim and Marisa, how that came to be, but also I think your impulse to collaborate recently is fascinating to me. So can we speak to those two things, Jim and Marisa, and how you've come to know them and work with them? And secondly, just, your desire to work with others at this point in your life.
Well, I've been a fan of both Jim and Marisa's work for many, many years. I guess Marisa, I heard her record, was it Mercury? Mm-hmm. Yeah, many years ago. That's the first thing I heard from her. And it was on repeat for many, many weeks at home. And I watched some interviews that she gave, talking about how she's working with traditional music and telling stories with just her electric guitar. I saw her perform a few times, and I love her stories. I love how, she's going to take this traditional song and mix it with this other traditional song to kind of make a conversation between two stories and create a new story. But it's just electric guitar, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And that was a huge influence on me in the making of Ma Délire. I know she was a huge influence. And just the way she is, like the way she's a really earnest person and very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Honest?
Honest. In French, we have this word. It's called integrity. I don't know.
She has integrity. Yes.
Yeah. Is there an adjective? Someone who has integrity is
she has integrity. I think that's just the easiest way to put it. She has conviction. She is one of the best, nicest, and I think in a loving way, I will say, most challenging people I've met. She takes no shit from me or anyone else, but also appreciates dialogue and discourse and wanting to talk things out. And for an instrumentalist of her caliber to be so interested in conversation, or if you go see Marisa live, like, she'll tell you where a song came from. Banter, I suppose. Context is very significant for her. So I just want to say, and I'm sorry I interjected, but I just want to convey to you that I appreciate all the same qualities about Marisa. I just mentioned some more, but I think we appreciate Marisa for the same attributes. Yeah.
And so she was always on my mind, like a potential future collaborator. But it felt like too good to be true. Then Jim. Chris Cresano played on Ma Délire. I'm really into free drums. Chris did an amazing job on this one song on Ma Délire, and I really like that sound. I'm a big, Dirty Three fan. I guess Mick Turner, like the Mick Turner and Jim White together, is just very important to me. That sound, and I always want to get a little bit of it on my records. That feeling of something very loose, and I'm not a very loose guitar player. Like, I can't really achieve that on my own. I kind of managed on Ma Délire on this one song, but it took me so long, and it was like 18 different tracks that I glued together to achieve that loose, because I'm kind of a square player, more like John Fahey, kind of, you have your thumb marking the rhythm. And the duo that they have together, Jim and Marisa, is kind of exactly that. It's completely Turner,
it's completely improvised. Everything they do, I think, that I'm aware of, all the records they've made. I know this because I've talked to them about everything they've done together, and I've talked to them about the new record. So it's interesting you mentioned your square playing, because I'm not used to hearing them in a context where they're playing with someone else, and there's a song form in place, if you will. So I wanted to ask about how that actually came to be. I also want to quickly ask you, did you happen to see Dirty Three in Montreal in 2012 like I did? I was at that show. No, okay, just checking. Yeah, just wondered. Sorry. They played, is it Ukrainian Federation Hall?
Ukrainian Federation.
Yeah.
Oh, Yes, I was there.
Oh, there you go.
I was at that show. Yeah, sorry. No. I was at that show. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Aurora opened up, Andrew Whiteman and Ariel Engel. I remember that. And it was during Pop Montreal. And I went to go see the band Hot Snakes that I loved. And then I was like, what the hell? Dirty Three are here too? So then I saw both of them in the same night. It was quite amazing. Anyway, sorry. We were in the same room.
No. We were.
Yeah. Sorry to interject. Sorry, back to my question.
No, don't worry about it.
Working with improvisers on songs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I met Jim in 2022 at Woodsis Festival in upstate New York. He came to play with Bill Callahan. And I didn't know he was going to be there. I was really happy to get to see Bill because I had never seen him before. And, we arrived at the festival. We were backstage eating tacos, and there he was, Jim.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my God, I didn't know I was going to see Jim White today. I was really nervous about it. I was really intimidated. And I started talking with him, and he's a funny guy. The connection was good, I felt like the connection was good.
Yeah.
And he came to see my set. I obviously went to see theirs. And afterwards, backstage, it was late at night. I had a few beers, and I was a bit, and I saw Jim, and I just went up to him and I said, "Can I hug you?" and he was really happy about it. I think he seemed happy, so we hugged.
Yeah.
And then he invited me to open for Xylouris White in New York.
Oh, nice.
A few months later. Yeah, which I did, and he played a song with me on my set. And then that was it. We left, and, but it stayed with me, and I think it stayed with him too, because he actually told Marisa in 2023, do you know Myriam Gendron? Do you know, it would be nice to collaborate with her. I didn't know that, but I went to see Marisa in Montreal, and I went up to her. I had my record written, and I had this idea with this song specifically, Luli Lule. I knew that I wanted Jim and Marisa on it. And so I went up to Marisa and said, "Do you remember me, Myriam?" And she didn't recognize me, but she said, "Yes. Oh, I was hoping you'd be there." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I told her, I have a new record. I'm going to record in a few months, and I was wondering if you and Jim might be interested in playing on it. And her eyes opened very wide, and she's like, "I can't believe this. I was just talking to Jim, and he was saying that it would be nice to collaborate with you." So yes, not only do I want to, but I can tell you that he does too.
Oh, lovely.
And so, kind of a funny thing. It was written in the stars. And so they came to Montreal a few months later, and we recorded 3 tracks together. And it was great. I didn't have to give them directions, really. They knew what they had to do. They understood it all.
So they were sent the songs in advance? Is that what you were saying?
Marisa was.
Yeah.
Not Jim.
Okay.
Not Jim.
Yeah.
But they both understood instantly.
This is very exciting. It's just an exciting story. I love that happened for you, and it sounds beautiful. It from your perspective, like, what's it like having? I don't want to say that these collaborations break up your record, but they distinguish themselves. Like, when you listen to it, does it make you want to do more of this, or maybe make a whole record like this? Have you thought about anything like that?
I do think about it once in a while. I'd say that I'm kind of attached to my solo persona.
Yes.
Because it's much easier for me to travel as a solo artist. Just I don't get paid well enough to, pay a bunch of musicians on tour. So I mean, my set has to work solo. But then, I see people like RosaliEp, her new record is just amazing. And I love the band she's playing with. It's just, I mean, yeah. When I listen to that record, I'm like, oh, that would be nice, to have an actual band. But, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Did you know RosaliEp was just on my show?
Yeah, for sure.
I listened you did?
To
Okay.
It. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Was it all right? I'm just going to ask.
It was great.
Okay, yeah. We had a good time, I think. And I discovered her parents' band on Apple. I found it on a streaming service, Apple Music in my case. And Otter Lunacy, did you know about her parents' band?
No, I don't know her at all. She's a friend of a friend, but I didn't know that. It's fun.
Yeah, it was lovely. And that's one of my favorite things I was going to say discovery, like I'm an explorer, but one of the things that came my way that I was most excited about, thanks to my contact there, Colette at Merge Records, for being like, you want to check out this Rosalie record. I think you'll like it. And I'd seen some friends sort of posting about it and whatnot, and I was like, yeah, okay. And then I was like, this is amazing. And then we had such a nice rapport. I love my show. It's so fun to meet people and talk to them about their work. I just want to say that. And now I want to say that this means a lot to me too, that you're here. It just really does. And
Thank you.
Anyway, I guess this is maybe my way of saying maybe we should start to wind down. I could talk to you all day, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So yes, thank you for being on the show and for making time for me. I want to give you the potentially awkward opportunity to say anything about Mayday that we haven't covered yet. Anything that you're like, this guy didn't ask me about this. And I just wonder if is there anything you want to say about it as we start to wrap up?
I guess there's this very important idea on Mayday that we haven't talked about. Is I guess it's where the lullabies meet the storms, and you might have read about that because maybe it was in the information that you were sent to prepare for the show. But it's something that I've been thinking a lot about because, well, as a parent of young children, I sing lullabies quite often, and it's hard. It's hard to comfort your kids when everything's falling apart around you. And I guess it was a very important idea for me on Mayday to kind of illustrate the tension between how soothing you have to be with your kids and with yourself, but to get this feeling of like tornadoes, storms everywhere around you, and you're singing lullabies in the middle of it all, you know? Yeah. And that's something that's quite important on the record, I think, that tension. And yeah, I don't know if you have something to say about that.
I feel like one thing I've been dealing with as I get older, because I got about 10 years on you, Myriam, and I have two kids, I got a 12 and a 9-year-old, is something I never really thought about is that, and this is going to sound really trite, but every parent is a child. And so you are enduring the thing. I don't know how old your kids are, but you're a mother. You got 2 young kids you're worried about and thinking about and singing to, and you lost your mother. And I feel like that swirl, in my good fortune at the moment, my parents are around, but they're getting older and I'm seeing it. And we're going to see them soon. And it's now a big thing. Like my mother has mobility issues. Like traveling's not easy for her. All this to say, I think as parents at a certain age, you start to think about your own parents and your role as a parent and how the things kind of converge, the emotions. I don't know that I'm speaking to exactly what you're saying, but that's how I feel. I feel like, I don't know what I'm doing as a parent. I'm doing my best. I don't think my parents knew what they were doing either, and I have to give them forgiveness and grace for that. I've turned out the way I've turned out. I think I'm doing okay, but I also want to make sure that I catch myself if I feel like I'm making what I deem to be mistakes that my parents made with my own kids, because we're in this weird cycle where I'm like, oh shit, I'm like my parents. That's great and that's not good. I got to figure those things out. At least I'm self-aware about it. Sorry, I'm babbling. Does any of this resonate with you?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's all about transmission and what you keep from what your parents gave you, what you keep inside. Now my mother's not there anymore, so I have to keep her alive inside of me. And what am I keeping and why? And what am I giving to my kids? And now I'm singing lullabies to myself, also when I'm singing to my kids. And when I'm singing a lullaby to myself, it's partly my mother singing inside of me. You know, it's this whole thing. And that's a very important part of the record.
I just talked about this with someone else. Have you gotten to the point where, my kids are 12 and 9. So that's an interesting point. My son, who's older, has outgrown some of the sort of intimacy, like singing songs at nighttime, reading stories together. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to listen to Kendrick Lamar. Leave me alone. I'll put myself to bed listening to hip hop. I'm like, all right, I guess that's okay. Maybe I'm being a bad dad. But my daughter is 9. Still, we sing to her. I take a guitar up there. I'm singing songs to her. We read together. And that's a bond that now that I know that my son doesn't want to do it anymore, I'm like, I have to cherish this. This isn't going to last forever. That's a weird thing about parenting. The thing you used to do is not happening anymore because your kids are growing up. And it's giving me a bit more appreciation as to why my parents, I used to think they were nagging me staying up until I got home, being worrywarts. Now I feel like, where are you going? What are you doing? All right, text me. Like, I didn't have that when I was a kid. I'm like, text me when you get there. That's all my parents were asking. Like, the same thing. Like, let us know you're okay. We're staying up to make sure you got back from Toronto after you went to your stupid concert. So I'm relating to them more, but I'm trying not to be like them at the same time. And I am trying to be like them. And it's fleeting. All of it's happening very quickly for me. Have you had that moment? Do you have an age staggering with your kids?
It's pretty similar to you, a bit younger. So I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son.
Right.
So
you see that thing where one of them is aging out of the thing, and so the more agency they get, it's like a midlife empty nest syndrome. They're here, but they're starting to go up to their rooms and hang out and talk to their friends online more than they hang out with us in the kitchen or whatever. So I've been very emo about this on the show already with a few guests where I'm like, I envision this moment of them moving out and I can't handle it. They're my kids, but they're my friends and I'm going to miss them. And I'm already having that. It's weird. It's stupid. and I'm mad at myself for even thinking it, but we are very close, I think, in our own way. So, sorry, I've been babbling about my own situation, but it sounds like you can relate.
Absolutely. So I don't, my daughter's not in her teenage years yet, but she's getting there for sure. And, I guess the challenge is just to keep a strong link, I don't want her to give up on us,
I think it stems from my own, like I had a lovely, in retrospect, I was belly aching about a really stable and normal, well cared for childhood, but I had a distance from my parents. Like I say, my moment of galvanization was when we went through something potentially tragic together, and it was hard. It was very hard, and we are lucky we made it through. But that changed me in my relationship, and I appreciate them more. So I feel lucky that I had that opportunity. But I also, it's fleeting. I just want to cherish this. I guess if I could give you any advice as someone with younger kids, is like, and I'm sure you're already doing this, but I'm coming to the point where I have to appreciate every moment of parenting where they need me. Because I guess what I'm envisioning the time when they treat me like I treated my parents, and like, I don't need you anymore. And I'm not looking forward to that. So we bond. We try to keep, I'm trying to maintain bonds. And there's a chance, Myriam, that I don't know if you feel this way. Could we be cooler than our parents were to our kids? Because my parents were immigrants, and and I was going to school in Canada, but there was this culture clash I felt at home. My son and I are talking about rap and hip hop, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm probably the lamest dad in the world, but it feels like they think I'm kind of cool, and I think they're cool, and so we relate to each other socially as much as like, I'm still like, pick up the trash, clean up your room, go to bed, like I'm that guy, but they also are like, you won't believe what's going on with Drake and Kendrick and J. Cole, and I'm like, yeah, my dad and I never talk like this. You know what I mean? Do you have that?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, time will tell. I think I'm a cool mom, but I don't think my daughter would agree. But I guess time will tell, because she's in opposition. It's very strong opposition to, like, it's like we can never be cool enough for her. Yeah. But I think she'll get there.
I think standards of coolness, whatever they mean, will change too, because they're spoiled. My son, we pulled up to a record store the other day. It was record store day, and I don't normally partake that much, but I had some stuff on hold, and I was also like, there's one thing I want to get. And he's been begging me to go to pick up some hip-hop albums that he's gotten into. So we pull up to the record store, and it's a lineup of people waiting to get it. And he goes, he's like, what's the line for? I'm like, I forgot. It's record store day as well. Like, I knew, but I also forgot that there would be a lineup. We went in the afternoon, and he said, oh, but you're you. Can't you just go in? I'm like, oh, shit.
Wow.
He's like entitled now. He thinks I'm that cool because we get. Anyway, I just want to say, I don't know why.
Did you try?
No, not. I said no. No one knows who I am.
Come on.
Yeah, I didn't say no. We stood in line. I mean, okay, yeah, sure enough, the record store guy's like, hey, Vish, like they knew me, but I didn't know. I'm like, no, that's not how anything works. But his whole life has been like, he's like, I like Andy Schaaf. Can we see Andy Schaaf? I go, yeah, okay. Get the tickets from the Edmonton place, and they're like, it says backstage passes. He's spoiled. And he thinks that's just normal now, but he also does. Anyway, I'm sorry. This sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not. I'm just saying my circumstances
I get it.
are odd, and we get free stuff and, you know, previews of their favorite shows on Netflix. And I got to talk. My daughter the other day was like, hey, do you know the show, Is It Cake? Have you ever heard of that show?
No.
It's on Netflix. It's hosted by an SNL, Saturday Night Live actor, performer, Mikey Day. And my kids love it. And so with Netflix, I get preview screenings, so we get it out. We get it before everyone else gets it. So my daughter just was like, can you talk to Mikey Day? I'm like, the host? I don't think so. But then I did. Then I reached out, and now it's like, oh no. They think anything, it's too easy. Like, they just think anything's possible. Papa can probably talk to Jay-Z or whatever, you know, and like, that's not how it works. Anyway, I'm sorry. Lots of tangents. I was trying to wrap us up. I'm sorry, Myriam, but I feel like, first of all, we're cool. Let's face it.
Yeah, I think we are.
We're pretty cool.
Like my daughter is into pop music. She's just like, she thinks my music is very sad and boring. So she doesn't have that yet. Like the cool factor, no.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
I have conveyed to them that it's not as easy as they think. Like, you know, can you talk to JID? My son will say. I'm like, no, probably not. It's there's echelons, and anyway, it's nice. Okay, let's get to some housekeeping. Again, I don't think of you as having a very online presence, but there's something. If people want to learn more about you, your work, follow you, if you will, where would you like to direct them?
Well, so I'm on Instagram. I don't know how to post. My boyfriend takes care of it.
You literally don't know. You don't know how to post?
I have no idea how it works.
All right, got it.
So it's Myriam Gendron Music is the tag. Is that how you call it?
It's the account. Yes, it's the account.
The account.
Yeah, the account. And
so as you can see,
does your boyfriend?
I'm on Facebook.
You're on Facebook. Sorry to interrupt you there. Does your boyfriend run something on Twitter?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So my boyfriend is a book publisher. He has a company. He publishes poetry mostly, and his publishing house is called Loi de Cravant.
Yeah. So this thing has started following me on a bunch of stuff, and I was like, "What is this thing?" But it's often about you. And I looked at it. Sorry, no offense. I follow them back. I was like, I like Myriam. There's something to do with Myriam. I don't know what it is. Is this Myriam? Like, I thought that for a second. You know, I already said earlier, I'm like, how do I get a hold of this person to tell her how much she means to me? I want to talk to her. And then this started following me, and I stopped myself from being like, maybe I should just write to this thing and see if they can connect us.
This thing is my boyfriend.
That's your boyfriend. Okay,
Benoit.
so he seems to, for whatever reason, appreciate me. And that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
We haven't said your boyfriend's name. Are we allowed to say his name?
Benoit. Yeah, we are. Okay. Benoit Chaput.
Okay.
He's,
Thank you.
It's thanks to him that I'm doing this.
Oh, well, that's very nice. Thank you. That's very kind. Okay, but that's not you, but he represents you.
Yeah. Okay. So I hate self-promoting. It's something I really have a hard time doing. So it's easier for me if he takes care of it. So often he's going to post on Instagram and it says, I will come to, but it's not me.
Okay.
So it seems like I'm self-promoting, but I'm not.
Okay.
He's writing it all. I don't know how to post.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure it out because once in a while he's not around and I feel like I have to, talk about the shows I'm about to do. And so he's starting to teach me, but yeah.
If you can maintain...
And I'm on Facebook.
Yeah, you're on Facebook as well. Sorry, I keep interrupting you plugging Facebook. You're on Facebook as well?
Facebook. Who cares about Facebook, right?
You'd be surprised. Sometimes it gets a lot more engagement than everything else, to be honest, with your stuff. Okay, so you're on Facebook. You're sort of on Twitter, in a sense. Your boyfriend is, and then you're on Instagram. And do you have your own website?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so that's where people can follow you. And the
Bandcamp. There's Bandcamp.
There's Bandcamp
Obviously.
as well. Okay.
Yep.
And then the record's split release, you were saying, between two labels?
Yes. So the physical labels is Thrill Jockey and Feeding Tube. Feeding Tube is taking care of American distribution, and Thrill Jockey is taking care of Europe and Asia.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Your American label. Where's Feeding Tube based?
Western Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, yeah. That sounds familiar to me now. But okay, I don't know. That's just a deal you got.
Because I needed a label in Europe, and Thrill Jockey offered to take care of that. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Fantastic. Before I let you go, though, I neglected to ask you if you have any future plans. That can include touring, of course, which sounds like it's on the horizon. If you're writing as we're speaking or working on a follow-up already, I know, we know that a record might have been done for 2 years before the release date is set. So those two things, you're traveling soon, I assume. And also, if so, how extensively? And are you working on new stuff? Can you speak to those things?
So I'm leaving for a tour of the East Coast and the West Coast with Jim and Marisa. We're touring together. So we're gonna start in New York on May 16th. Then we're going we're going north up to Montreal, and then flying to Portland, Oregon, and we're gonna play 6 shows on the West Coast. That's for the month of May. And then I have a few other shows planned during the year, but mostly local. So Toronto, Montreal, here and there around Quebec, and going to Europe in November.
Wow, that's great. I'm very happy for you. I know it's a lot to be away from your family, but that sounds very exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
Secondly, have you been working on stuff?
So no, maybe it's gestating, but I'm someone who doesn't write or create on a daily basis. It's really just a door that I open, when I feel like it's time to work on a new record. I'm gonna open that door. It's gonna be like horrible for a few weeks, and then I'm gonna shut it. And that's how I work, and that's something I want to try to change. If I could just keep it a little bit open all the time, maybe I'd be a healthier person. So we'll see. But
some people work that way. It comes in a sudden, and then they're done, and they've expressed something. It also can create a context or a conceptual framework for a record, can it? Like everything's from the same mindset in time. Yeah. But
it's very, very intense, and it's hard to deal with me, I think, for my family when I'm in that zone.
Yes.
Like I don't sleep. I'm really in a bad mood, it's very intense. So if I could just, do a little bit here and there all the time, it would be better, I think, for everybody. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. You're self-aware. That's a good part of this. So that's great. Okay. If we can go out on a song from this beautiful record, Mayday, which will be out very shortly as people are listening to us chatting right now. Can you choose one for us and maybe tell us why it came to mind?
Yes, let's go with Luli Lule. I think it's my favorite song of the record. So it's the one I was talking about earlier, where I asked Jim and Marisa to do the musical part, the instrumental part, and I'm just singing on it. And they really managed to create this very loose background for me to sing on. And I think it really illustrates the tension I was talking about, because it's kind of a lullaby in a storm. And it's a song it comes from very far away in time. It's like 16th century England. So Luli Lule is known as the Coventry Carol. And it's a song that I guess it's a mother singing a lullaby to her condemned child. It talks about what became known as the massacre of the innocents. So King Herod, learning about having heard about the birth of Jesus Christ, ordered for the massacre of all the children under the age of 2. And so it's the song is originally it's the mother singing to her child, saying goodbye because he's gonna be killed. And so that's where the song comes from. And I've changed it a lot, and I made it a song where I guess I'm saying goodbye to my mother. Yeah, so it's a grieving song.
Yeah, I picked up on that just reading the lyrics, and this song is in English for my English-speaking audience, so maybe you'll pick up on that too. And I appreciate the choice. I also appreciate why your daughter might be into pop music, living with you. No, I'm just kidding. Sunny pop music. This is a bit of a sad song. All right, so this is Lulilele from the beautiful new album Mayday by Myriam Gendron. Myriam, I hope I've gushed enough to you about how much this was meant to me beforehand. I want to tell you it meant a lot to me as we were doing it. So thank you so much for making time for me and being on this show. And I hope we speak again. I wish you the best luck in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vish. I'll be waiting for that letter.
Damn it. I got to write that letter. I'll find your address.
You've gone away. You left without a tear. Oh, you closed your eyes and you quit the game. You vanished in the morning rain. Bye bye,
There you go, Lululele by Myriam Gendron from the excellent new album Mayday, and that song featuring Jim White and Marisa Anderson. Well, I think you heard me gush. It was a huge thrill for me to get to speak with Myriam, and I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and we'll dig into her work if you're unfamiliar with it, because it's really moved me, and this was very meaningful. So thanks again, Myriam. This is the 865th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available pretty much wherever you get your podcast. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. Also, please click on the hyperlinked text that says follow Vish online to find me on your social media platforms. If I'm on one, then that's where you can find me. Also, please visit patreon.com/creative control to make a flexible monthly donation to keep me and this podcast going. There are different tiers. I mentioned the monthly newsletter there, but for $1 a month, you get my weekly newsletter, and that's mostly to keep people in the know about what's coming up on the show. There's a $4 tier that gets you ad-free episodes of the show. There's a $6 tier now that gets you all the other stuff I just said, but it gets you every single episode in its entirety, and that's not the case for everyone else, whether they're on Patreon or not. Everyone else is getting every other episode, but if you want every single episode, that starts at the $6 a month tier. $10 a month, you get all that other stuff, plus you get entry into our monthly random prize pack draws. And otherwise, it's just supporting me in this work. And if you'd like to see it continue, that is one way you can help. And I just want to thank everyone who's really stepped up. I've seen a lot of growth. It means a lot. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you can learn more at patreon.com/creative control. I also want to thank a couple of independent businesses, a few actually, that support me with in-kind support. Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee, respectively, in Guelph, Ontario, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. Also want to thank my friend Jim Guthrie. He lends me some music for the show, and you can learn more about him at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you for listening to this episode with Myriam Gendron. I hope you will check out her music and go see her live if you can. And I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast or follow it and leave nice ratings and reviews on your pod platform if you have a moment. And if you can, tell your friends about the show. That helps. Your friends like you. They trust your opinion. So if you tell them the show is good, maybe they'll be like, yeah, I trust Jim or Bill or Dorothy or Maggie or whatever your name is. Anyway, that'll help spread the word about the show. So thank you very much. I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.